Before I begin today, I want to let you know that we have restarted the Roundtable Preaching Team. This is a group that meets every other week to take part in preparing upcoming sermons. You can find the team members' names in the bulletin and start up a conversation with them. Let them know how we're doing together. And while I love the discussion and the insights that come from the Roundtable team, it's also nice to have someone else to share the blame for what is to follow today. Because, my friends, we are continuing in the book of Ecclesiastes through Lent. Indeed, this book is challenging. And as I said last week, how we approach it can impact what we find when we get there. Last week, we honed in on one key term of the book: vanity, vanity, all is vanity. But even understanding that central theme of the book can be a challenge. The term hevel, or what is translated vanity in our translation, can mean a lot of different things. Most basically, it means vapor or breath. Definitely something that's hard to grasp or hold on to. Today, we dig deeper into Ecclesiastes, considering another recurring phrase there, and that is under the sun, the place where we live out our days. Under the sun, how nice. Maybe Ecclesiastes is suggesting that life is like a warm day on the beach where we can bask in the sun's rays, and after the day, we leave with a perfect tan. Oh, wait, that's not it at all. That's not even remotely close to what the teacher has in mind about this life under the sun. In Ecclesiastes, life under the sun is a life that is governed by natural rhythms that just keep going and going and going. The sun rises and it sets, it rises and it sets, it rises and it sets, and on, as if it is like Sisyphus on a course that will not end. And the wind blows, and on it goes. The water flows to the sea, but it never reaches a place of completion or fullness, and the streams don't run dry. Under the sun, for the teacher, is an encapsulated, contained, a closed system. And we are trapped in its unending loop of sameness over and over again. And on top of that, while the natural rhythms of the world go on and on, the writer of Ecclesiastes, the teacher, is quick to note, we will not. Perhaps, as we discussed in the roundtable, the teacher is simply offering it to us ipso facto, just the facts, man. The kind of thing with which we have to come to terms. It's just the truth. Deal with it. But if that is the case, where is the meaning in it all? And where can we find hope in the midst of this life? You might be feeling as uneasy with this outlook as we were in the round table as we read this passage together. I'm delighted to say that there we did not spend the rest of our hour and a half together wallowing in despair, and I hope the same will be true for us here today too. Instead, we dug in a bit deeper. And we realized we might not be getting just the facts, but that the teacher's teaching comes from a viewpoint. And as Reverend Dr. Bill said back there, a viewpoint is a view from a point. So from which point did the teacher's view emerge? I glossed over this last week as we considered those first few verses of Ecclesiastes. But there we have an answer. And the answer is, the point of view comes from the view of a king, or King Solomon to be exact. And yet, I should say, even though Ecclesiastes is credited to King Solomon, the jury is out on who really wrote it. It likely was not Solomon. But in any case, as we hear the teacher's teachings, we're encouraged to imagine them as if they came from the mouth of the son of David, king in Jerusalem, Solomon. So it's worth taking a few moments to consider just who Solomon was. As I said, he was the son of David with a bit of a rough start to things. He was a child of David's evil act against Bathsheba. Young Solomon grew up in the king's courts, which is no place for moral character to develop. When it came time for Solomon to rule in Jerusalem, he built a 3-story tall temple for God. As Frederick Buechner puts it, he made it with enough gold to bankrupt Fort Knox. Solomon was wealthy and powerful, with an estimated 40,000 horses and 12,000 horse riders. After he took 7 years to build God's house, he took 13 to build his own. But it wasn't all bad. He ruled for 40 years in a time of relative peace, something that we could certainly appreciate in the Middle East these days. It was also the length of time that would allow the philosopher king to ruminate on the big questions of life. He also maybe didn't have that much time. He had 700 wives and 300 other women who were there at his beck and call. Perhaps Solomon was not a well-adjusted human with the right outlook on life and healthy relationships. Nonetheless, Solomon is attributed with great wisdom. So he's credited with being the author of many of the wisdom sayings in the book of Proverbs. And as we've heard here today, he's also credited with Ecclesiastes. It might seem that Solomon had everything, but in all that he gained, it appears he lost the heart of God. Frederick Buechner once more notes, King Solomon was among the wisest fools who ever wore a crown. And for those who know Lord Acton's quote about power corrupting and absolute power corrupting absolutely, in Solomon we also see that not only does power corrupt a life, but that too much power can limit one's perspective too. Is it possible that Solomon or whoever wrote Ecclesiastes just simply lost the point of it all? Maybe we need to look to another teacher if we want a better, a more adjusted perspective on this life. And fortunately, we have that very thing. In John chapter 3, which, by the way, was supposed to be the lectionary text for today, but in John 3, Nicodemus, who was a teacher of Israel, went to Jesus under the protection of night, and he's quick to call Jesus teacher. Come to think of it, maybe I should have focused on that passage today rather than the book of Ecclesiastes. Nonetheless, we're here now, and we're stuck with it. But this teacher, Jesus, just like the one from Ecclesiastes, paid a great deal of attention to natural things too. But what he discovered in them was wildly different than what the teacher in Ecclesiastes found. Jesus didn't focus as much on these big rhythms of life, the unending circularity of sun and wind. But Jesus did note on whom the sun rises, both the righteous and the unrighteous. He did pay attention to the wind, too. It didn't lead him to despair. It reminded him of the way that the Spirit breaks into the world, moving wherever she will. He also invited people to look and to find new possibilities in the places they pay attention. Consider the birds of the air, he said, and you might learn something about God's love. Consider the grass of the field, and you might confront the brevity of this life, but you'll also see that God doesn't measure life's value in duration of days. He said, consider the mustard seeds, and you might get a glimpse of the way that God is breaking into this world. And even though the teacher in Ecclesiastes bemoans that there is nothing new under the sun, for our teacher, the world isn't that fixed. For when a free God intervenes, that which is new becomes possible. The prophet Isaiah knew that. In Isaiah 42, God said, "See, the former things have come to pass, and new things I now declare." The teacher of Ecclesiastes looks at the rhythms that go on, and in exasperation throws up his arms and says, "It's more than I can handle, it's more than I can express." But where the teacher of Ecclesiastes is led to a place of seeming despair, our teacher would invite us at the place where it's more than we can express to enter into wonder. Wendell Berry gets it. He once wrote, "When despair for the world grows in me, I go to lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. And for a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free." Yes, we live the days of these lives under the sun. And indeed, as all of us can probably feel in our backs in the morning as we get up, that comes with its limitations. And yes, the rhythms of this world that go on will outlast us. Come to think of it, that's exactly the message that we started with at the beginning of Lent. On Ash Wednesday, with the sign of the cross made on the forehead, Pastor Daniel and I said, "Remember, you are dust, and to dust you shall return." But the question remains, must that lead us to a place of futility? Must despair be the last word on the matter? I don't think so. Let's consider a more reasoned perspective. Our limitations, as real as they are still interrupted by a God who is not bound by the endless natural rhythms. Therefore, let us seek the goodness of lives that remain open to a God who intervenes. And within the limits of these lives, which are real indeed, we still find all kinds of reason for wonder, hope, and praise. Truly, thanks be to God. Amen.